Get my water. Open the water. Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. My co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Kyle Larson, dominating performance at Bristol. 411 of the 500 laps he was ahead. Put on a clinic for the second race in a row there. Last two races, he's led over, I think, 800 laps, just absolutely demolishing everybody. Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs, the rest of the podium there. Chase Briscoe finishing fourth, making three of the top four Joe Gibbs Racing drivers, and then Ryan Blaney getting a top five finish. It's been a while since we've talked about NASCAR and since I've thought about NASCAR. But Nick, what do you think of that race? Is Bristol ruined with this next gen car?
I liked the race. I thought it was fine. I was one of the 20-ish% that voted it was a good race. It's not the best Bristol race I've ever seen. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't awesome. But it was a good race. I mean, once they figured out you could just go, and Kyle Larson and Justin Haley seemed to figure that out, there was passing right off the bat. It came a lot harder as the PJ1 or whatever it is now, the traction compound, kind of wore off a little bit, and then the high line became the preferred groove. It became much harder to pass, but there was a little while there where it was like a couple grooves going on, and you could get some passing done. But it's not the best Bristol racing we've ever seen, but I still thought it was a good race. I enjoyed it. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes the best driver gets out front, and they're the best driver. Kyle Larson had the best car. He was the best driver. So the fact that he led 400 whatever laps isn't a car thing, right? He was just the best one. He was pulling out by 3-4 seconds at times. That just means he was the best. So it was okay. But you know what was a really good race? Long Beach. Kyle Kirkwood, winner.
Kyle Kirkwood getting the win, yeah. But yeah, you're right. And we've had this happen, several times in recent memory where one guy just has something figured out at the track and they demolish the field. We saw it a lot with Martin Truex Jr., even in the old car. Sometimes you just have this happen. And clearly Kyle Larson and that 5 team have something figured out at Bristol because they did the same damn thing last fall. But overall, yeah,
Kyle Kirkwood has Long Beach figured out, right? I mean, dominated his 2 Long Beach wins. Absolutely just dominated. It just happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like I think the precedent has been set with Bristol and the history that track has, where people are expecting bangers of a race every single time.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd go as far to say as the race was ruined, but definitely a lot of room for improvement. And I understand why people were disappointed. Mm-hmm. It was fun to see, some of those lower or mid-tier teams run well. You mentioned Justin Haley, Carson Hocevar. They pretty much had a top 3 car if they didn't get killed by that last pit stop. He had a legitimate shot. If Larson and Hamlin had either of them or both of them had issues, he had a chance to win this race. So there was some good little things about like that. AJ Allmendinger ran top 10 most of the day. Like I said, Chase Briscoe finally got a good finish, as did Ty Gibbs. So overall, I think we learned a few things with this race, and yeah, I mean, Larson has Bristol figured out, and it sucks. I in my opinion, and I think a lot of people in the betting community, it kind of is annoying when like Larson was the favorite all week. He was the favorite after practice and qualifying. And it kind of sucks when that happens because, there's not typically a lot of us don't really bet the favorites. So that part kind of sucks, but we got a nice break after it. And now we get the Talladega shit show coming up this weekend.
I'm a little miffed because, right, we saw those tire issues in practice and then there was none of that in the race. And it's because of the temperature. It's a little annoying that the tire wear at Bristol is so temperature sensitive. And I made a few of my top 10 bets thinking tires could be an issue, and then they weren't. But I made a number of top 10 bets. Like I think I bet John Hunter Nemechek, I bet Noah Gragson, I bet Justin Haley. I think maybe one other, maybe Zane Smith, or I don't think it was Zane. It was somebody else. But the idea is all I had to do was hit one top 10 and I would have made profit. 2 would have been a bonus. And even without the tire issues, I still almost had Justin Haley until the end there. It's so frustrating, but just didn't work out. But don't hate that. I do hate that maybe I probably didn't check the forecast enough and really figure out if tires are going to be an issue. So kind of some bad process on my part there. But in the end, I still only had to hit one top 10 and almost did with Haley and just didn't quite do it. So yeah, really sucky race for betting overall. I think, like you were saying, when the favorite just goes out and dominates and he's plus 265 or something he closes at, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned, and that was a big story throughout the whole weekend, was obviously we knew in practice that tires were an issue. And then, you know, they did mention, and we kind of knew that the temperature would get a little bit warmer, but even on race day, teams did not know what to expect. And we saw that during that first run because they were all just waiting for the tires to start degrading. And then once they got confirmation that they weren't, yes, they gave everybody the go, like go as fast as you can. You know, we saw a little bit of, you know, playing really conservatively in that first run. And that overall is just, it made me not want to bet it. Like, I think I only had a few bets. Like I really liked Buescher top 10. That was a shit bet. That was probably my worst bet this year. But you know, it's one of those weeks where like it reminds you that it's fine to step back and not bet anything. And just like this week at Talladega, I have not put a single bet in. I have not seen a single bet that I even remotely like this week. And
Fast Pasta at 6-1 top 10. Gotta like
6-1. We used to get him at 14.
Yeah, like but he's like 30% to finish top 10 or something, you know, 25% to finish top 10, and he's getting 6-1.
I guess
just because we used to get 14 doesn't mean 6 is bad when it should be 4 or 3.
Yeah, I'm just I don't know. I remember those days of getting him at 14, and
he's had 3 top 12 finishes and 4 Talladega starts, including 2 top 10s.
Yeah, I know.
That Beard Motorsports car almost won Daytona last year with Parker Retzlaff. Pushed, you know, a non-Chevy to the win, and he got some blowback for that. But he was in a position to win himself, you know. And that, like, this Beard Motorsports car can finish in the top 10 at these you know, drafting track races.
Yeah, they I mean, they built this car specifically for these races. It's the only ones that they run. So
exactly.
Switching back a little bit more to Bristol, one thing that I want to note, Ross Chastain had an amazing car. And if he wouldn't have started 35th, I think he would have been a top 3 car. I think he had the second most fastest laps in that race, despite starting 35th. That's just something for me to remember. And I hope that we remember in the second Bristol race, because that car was really fucking good.
And I doubt we'll have the tire issues in the second Bristol race, because it tends to be warm enough for the second one. And it sucked because like all my practice flags data was super misleading, because some of these guys are like managing their tires and being really good about it, like Joey Logano, and then the race comes and there's no tire wear and he gets trapped a lap down. Same with John Hunter Nemechek. Nemechek actually, he got a lap down early, but he was really good. He kept passing cars. He kept getting close to being the lucky dog. It kept nearly getting back in the lead lap. Finally did. He had a really good car. He just never had the track position. So yeah, Ross didn't show very well in practice flags, but then once, you know, and I think that makes sense because he's probably not the best at tire management with how he drives, but once tires weren't an issue and knowing he had a good short run car, all of a sudden it became a good long run car because there was no tire wear.
Alex Bowman started on the pole, led 39 laps. He had an engine let go. Probably a top 5 car all day up until that point. So that sucked for him.
Ty Gibbs
finally gets a finish. How about that?
Yeah.
And I think we talked about that. I know I did on my live stream, and I think we talked about it on the episode last week, that was the perfect buy low position on Ty Gibbs, because everybody's not talking about him, but this is one of his best tracks. And, you know, he finally had some, didn't have any bad luck during the race there.
I'm pretty sure I wrote him up in my my DFS article too. Let me pull it up. NASCAR. I think I even said like buy low spot on Ty Gibbs in my article. Let me scroll down here. Yeah, he was my Paul Menard pick of the week.
Nice. Yeah. But any other takeaways you have from Bristol? I honestly don't really remember that race. It's been so long ago.
Not really, no. Honestly, my DFS lineup that I basically gave in my article was Larson, Logano, Noah Gragson, John Hunter Nemechek, Ty Gibbs, and Tyler Reddick, right? Like that was, I wrote up basically those 6 drivers and they all fit perfectly in a lineup. That lineup was absolutely crushing, even though Joey, didn't get very far forward simply because Joey started dead last or second to last or whatever. So that had a pretty solid day there if you played that lineup.
And both of our lineups actually cashed that we did the way too early, like before practice and qualifying. Yours ended up with 385.35, which was good enough for 192nd in the $3 contest out of 47.56. And then mine was 338.35.
Nice.
Ended up 1,189th, which like I said, they both cashed. So that's always interesting. And we'll get to those results a little bit later, but onto the standings update here. Probably help if I had it up already, huh? Byron's still in the lead by 30 points over Hamlin. Christopher Bell. Larson jumped up 2 spots to 4th. Chase Elliott fell back to 5th. Blaney up to 6th. Not a lot of movement here.
No.
A lot of the same guys. And again, still, and we talked about him last week, AJ Allmendinger is right there on the playoff bubble. Another top 10 finish for him at Bristol this last week. Obviously, Josh Berry, who's 17th in points, he's in with the win. Ty Gibbs jumps up to 20th. He's moving his way up. And then Brad Keselowski still stuck down there way back in 31st. Hocevar jumps 5 spots up to 25th. Justin Haley jumps 6 spots up to 23rd. Let's talk about Justin Haley though quick. Was it yesterday or the day before? Rodney Childers is done.
Yep.
And I haven't seen much details around this on why, but 9 races in and he's out at Spire Motorsports.
Chemistry issues, what it sounds like. They weren't gelling very well. So it sounds like some clashing of personalities or things like that. And Spire even said, Rodney brought great ideas. He's absolutely a fantastic crew chief, but just wasn't working out. So I'm sure Rodney Childers will end up in a big spot. Maybe this year, maybe, I don't know if there's a non-compete where he can't, join with another team or something, but maybe consult or whatever, but I'm sure in the near future, he will end up in another good situation there.
But yeah, that was one of the big all-season acquisitions and changes was, Childers going to Spire and, how much money did they throw at him to go there from Stuart Haas. And that was hopefully I would assume that he'd have a non-compete, especially how he said, "Oh, I'm going to take some time,
exactly.
and enjoy life and enjoy my family." Like that just screams, I have a non-compete and I can't. My hands are tied right now. You know
exactly.
You don't just go from where he was in the sport to wanting some time off. So, yeah, that was the big news of the week. And I mean, when you sent it to me, I remember I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, we rarely get actual breaking news in NASCAR. Like, it's always leaked a little bit before it actually comes out. But yeah, that was actually a secret until it happened.
Best kept secret since the Tyler Reddick to 2311 secret. But it's very rare we get secrets like that,
Yeah. But yeah, what are we thinking here with these point standings without much change in here?
Keselowski's kind of fucked, right? Like we said after that stretch, I remember like 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 races ago, we said like, okay, well, there's Phoenix, Las Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville, Darlington, Bristol. Like he's got to make hay in that stretch of races, and he didn't. best finish of 11th in that stretch of races, 0 top 10s on the year. He has to win. It's a good thing we're going to Talladega because he has to win, and he finished second there both races last year.
Yeah. Looking down, it wouldn't be surprised if Kez gets a win and sneaks in, or not sneaks in, but like takes up a playoff spot. And then also we got SVG sitting 34th in points behind Riley Herbst now. But you have to think SVG is going to win a road course.
Yep.
We will talk about it when it happens, but there's discussion there for whether he actually deserves a spot a la Harrison Burton last year.
Mm-hmm.
But sitting 34th in points, SVG, obviously his first full-time Cup Series season, not going as well as they wanted.
But
especially
exactly as I expected, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of us, we're kind of on that. What's interesting is Herbst is above him in points. Despite Riley Herbst has 0 stage points this year. SVG has 14. You take away those 14 stage points, he's sitting below Cole Custer in the points. That's how bad SVG is running this year. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Trackhouse started off and didn't have a ton of speed to begin the season, but it's bad for SVG right now.
Yeah, it is. And kind of just looking through these standings on that Keselowski thing, Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher, 12th and 14th, right? His teammates. Mm-hmm. And they definitely want to, win and solidify their playoff spot, but maybe there's some extra focus on getting Kez that win this weekend from the RFK camp. Push him to the win to lock him up, since he has to win now. At least Preece and Buescher have some hope of pointing their way in, right?
I was gonna say, but what's interesting though is if right now, and obviously we have 17 races till this regular season's over, but if right now Keselowski wins and gets in the playoffs, all of a sudden Ryan Preece is on the bubble.
Is the bubble boy, yeah.
Is the bubble if depending on like how many points Busch would gain or lose, or Allmendinger from here, but yeah, Keselowski wins this week and Ryan Preece becomes the bubble.
Yep.
So it's a definitely a good thing for RFK to confirm a car in there, but it's also kind of hurts them in a way, or could potentially hurt them depending on how the rest of the season went.
But you also, like you said, you have to think SVG gets a win, and so that bubble moves up anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
and I think SVG is going to get a win. Keselowski, I would think he's going to get a win, but with the way they're running this year, maybe not.
I like right now with the way they're running, it has to come at Talladega or Daytona or Atlanta.
Yeah, because they're not going to outright go out and win anything. But so in the regular season, we still have Talladega, Atlanta, and Daytona, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like all of these guys in like outside the playoff positions now, we can also see surprise winners there. So it's going to be interesting to see where this playoff bubble goes. Not to mention, is AJ Allmendinger or someone like that going to get a win and get into those playoffs? So we could see there's definitely the potential here for some big name guys to miss out on these playoffs this year, just because of how these points are right now and how teams are running right now. And the rest of the way that we have to go.
Probably some focus on Penske for Austin Cindric, right?
Mm-hmm.
Similar situation to Keselowski. They have 2 guys comfortably in the points, and Cindric's out down there in 22nd. We know he can win Talladega. He's one of the premier super speedway racers right now. So it's going to be an interesting Talladega race from that standpoint.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously we saw with the first Atlanta race, like Christopher Bell won that one. So it was a big name driver that was going to get in the playoffs anyway. We didn't really get a surprise. Yeah. But Talladega, I mean, if anybody that watches NASCAR knows how Talladega can be.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on these point standings here?
No, I think we're good. I guess the only other thing would be, and we don't need to spend too much time on it, but remember Alex Bowman was sitting there in the top 5 or so. 3 straight bad finishes for him has him down in 10th now.
Mm-hmm. And kind of a distant 10th too. Bubba Wallace sitting in 8th. Wow, how did I miss that?
Yep. No, I mean the top 8 is your 2311/JGR guys, and your Hendrick guys, and Ryan Blaney.
Yeah. Who, still doesn't have a win this year, but has finally. I have 2 good finishes, by the way, with my picks to win because I had Blaney last week.
Who did I have last
2
week?
straight.
Did I take Hosa?
Nope, you had Larson.
Oh, I took Hosa. I think at Darlington.
Yeah, you got 2 wins on the year.
Nice.
And I'm just trying to get my guys to finish.
Yep.
But yeah, that'll be good or I don't have anything else for the drivers' point standings here.
Same.
So yeah, we can get on to Talladega. We have no idea what to expect at Talladega.
No.
But we can talk about
saving.
Right. We can talk about strategies and some ways to play DFS. Like Nick said, there are some bets out there, but I will note, like, especially the top 10 markets, I'm honestly surprised that even FanDuel didn't give us much long at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're like to me, these top 10 markets that we have this week are the quote unquote worst we've had at a super speedway in quite a while. And I'm not sure why, whether it's just like, I don't know what's changed and why we're suddenly getting worse odds.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's the only thing I've noticed this week.
But like I said, I mean, fast pasta at 6-1 is pretty much the only bettable thing. And then I took John Hunter Nemechek simply because 6 out of his 9 starts at Dega and Daytona have been 11th or better, right? So, I mean, 67% of the time the dude is on the cusp of or been in the top 10. So that's why I took him at plus 370. But those are the only 2 top 10 bets I made. And then I took Austin Dillon to win it. I took him at 80-1 by the time we recorded the podcast. He was down to 66-1. So I tracked him at 60 or 66-1, whatever it was, when the podcast dropped. But I bet Austin Dillon at 80-1 when he was there earlier in the week at FanDuel. Those are only 3 bets I've made. And then Todd Gillen to win the poll. I made a poll bet, man. I bet Todd Gillen.
I know, I saw that.
14-1.
Oh man. You can't pass that up when you get, like, that car's been so good at super speedway qualifying lately. 14-1 is, yeah. I did make, I lied. I did make 2 really early week bets. And they were tiny, but, and it kind of goes off the poll because obviously Ford is going to have the edge in qualifying. And I fully expect Josh Berry to be one of the fastest qualifiers. So he was sitting at 35-1 to win stage 1 and 40-1 to win stage 2.
Nice.
So I just sprinkled a tiny little bit on that, just because if this turns into a follow the leader for the first 2 stages and he qualifies up front, I could see him being up there. I think he's finished top 5 in the stages before. And just a reminder to everybody, track history does not matter at Talladega whatsoever. This is all random. I love making fantasy lineups or DFS lineups for Talladega and Daytona. It's also the most frustrating thing ever, but it's so much fun just to crank up the randomization. Set your parameters of where you want to go, and literally pretty much anybody's on the table outside of, we're always going to not recommend picking the top 5 qualifiers and sparingly on the top 10, but yeah, anybody's on the table, and this is a fun week to play DFS.
Sure is. I'll be 150ing it.
Yeah, I didn't look at what did DraftKings kill the big GPP again this week. I know we just had the Masters come in.
I made my my 2 early lineup, but I actually didn't look at any contest sizes or anything.
Yeah. So the big one is $100,000 to first, 375,000 total.
That's not too bad, honestly. I mean, you want it to be more than that, or a lower percentage of that, I should say, to first place, but close to 25% isn't horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter because none of those people listening, watching are going to win the 100K anyway because I am.
There we go. They might chop it with you. That's probably the best.
That's probably not the case though, because when I make my 150, I looked for the Daytona 500. I think my 150 had like maybe 5 duplicated lineups or something.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, I'm definitely out there with my lines, but it's a little easier to do that for Daytona just because of the way qualifying is. I think it's going to be a little harder to do that for Talladega.
Why?
Because you're going to have your ship boxes starting in the back, right? BJ McLeod's going to start in the back, or JJ Yaley's going to start in the back. And like, you're not really using those guys. So you're moving up from those guys. And then it's like, okay, well, everybody's doing that. So it's going to be kind of the same thing. So unless you want to have a lot more BJ McLeod or JJ Yaley, it's going to be harder to be a little more unique. But Talladega's not. I divide my super speedways into chaos and non-chaos races, and Talladega's a non-chaos race, so you don't get as much of the opportunity for your JJ Yaleys or your BJ McLeods to finish in the top 10 or top 12 simply because you're not getting as much chaos in these ones. It can happen. It can happen. You can get more chaos in these Talladega races. It's just a lower probability of that than the Daytona 500 or the Daytona playoff cutoff race.
Yeah, and it's if you've noticed over the last few years, especially in this next gen package, the races at Talladega DFS wise, the chalk has hit quite a bit, and that's kind of, it makes it frustrating, I know, for like you and me, because we're typically off the chalk. I'd rather go with an Anthony Alfredo, who I know is going to be low owned, even if he qualifies dead last, than an Eric Jones starting back there. But
absolutely,
when the chalk hits, it's like, it's frustrating, but it is what it is.
Yep.
So yeah, we do have 39 cars in the field this week. You mentioned JJ Yaley's in that NY Racing Team Chevrolet. BJ McLeod's in the 78 for Live Fast, and then we got Anthony Alfredo in the 62, in addition to the normal 36 drivers every single week. I
wish they'd give us odds on BJ McLeod leading a lap, because when they do that fuel save, he goes to the front.
Right.
He says, screw it. I'm getting time for my sponsors. I'm going to take the lead.
And what's crazy is typically, when he did that in the Daytona 500, what was it, last year? They still didn't like focus on him or his sponsors. They were just showing the mid pack. It's like, God, like,
so frustrating, because he deserves it. We talk about like, my whine about it was going to be this whole Catherine Legg deal and how people are being a little crazy about that. But when we talk about other drivers in these shipbox cars, like BJ McLeod does it the right way. He's always been a respectful driver. The rest of the garage really respects him. So even if he isn't the fastest, he's always respectful, and he rarely wrecks. He rarely screws up somebody else's race. So he deserves, when he gets out front, he deserves that TV time, honestly.
Yeah. And he's also, I mean, he's put himself in quite a good position, because I think he's made quite a bit of money by having a charter and then selling it.
Yep.
And yeah, like he timed that and executed that perfectly. So good for him. And yeah, hopefully these are the races where he can actually get a good finish. So
yeah, hopefully
that comes to fruition there. But if you do bet on him, if you do have him in your DFS lineups, just know that if they are not fuel saving at the front, he will be in the back the entire time. But
exactly.
He did lead both Talladega races last year. He led 5 laps in the spring race and
so cool.
1 lap in the fall.
I love it.
Yeah. Finished 22nd and 32nd in those 2 races. Looking at the next gen era here at Talladega, all different race winners in the 6 races so far.
but all
Blaney
chalk.
Stent,
And the Ricky Stenhouse being the non-chalk is still chalk because it's Ricky Stenhouse at a super speedway. But it's like all the winners are like big name drivers plus Stenhouse, who I count as a big name driver at a super speedway.
right. We got Reddick, which was like, he's kind of an underrated driver at super speedways. You picked him at Daytona this year because, nobody's really on him. But then we got Ross Chastain, who that actually just came up in my memories the other day on my phone.
Yeah, 40 to 1.
Because you 35 to 1, you and I said to bet that. Kyle Busch, Blaney, and Chase Elliott. Those are the 6 winners here at Talladega, in addition to Stenhouse in the next gen era. Average driver rating over these 6 races, a lot of the same names: Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, all 90 or above. Kyle Larson at 87.3 average.
Larson was actually my pick to win on Running Hot.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not going to do that here because I'm going to have a little more fun with it, but he was my pick to win on Running Hot.
He's one that I always like to keep an eye on super speedways when it comes to betting odds, because he tends to drift, because he has such a bad reputation at super speedways. He has bad average finishes here. Yeah, but he runs really well here. And I think last I checked, he was like 14 to 1. I'm not betting Larson at 14 to 1. What's the line for you? You won't bet anyone under 18 to 1?
At chaos races, I won't bet anybody under 18 or so. Talladega, it's probably more like, if you can get a Ryan Blaney at 14 or 15 to 1, I would do it. But Ryan Blaney's not 14 or 15 to 1. Ryan Blaney is 10 to 1. Right. Yeah. So you need these guys to be closer to 14 or so at races like Dega, whereas at Daytona, the chaos races, you need to be more like 18. So honestly, I could see myself, once I, fully finalize my model and everything like that, and, really analyze things, I could potentially see myself taking a William Byron or a Chase Elliott or an Austin Cindric at 16 to 1. Potentially. I haven't yet, but you get my point. Like, I could potentially see it.
Looking at the 2 super speedway races this year, obviously we had, Daytona 500, and then Atlanta the next week, which is a pseudo speedway, but still a drafting track. Ryan Blaney, the best average or the best driver rating in both of those races. Cindric was second best at Daytona. Logano was third best at Atlanta. So obviously Team Penske likes to run up front. Carson Hocevar was a bit of a surprise at Atlanta. He had the second best driver rating.
Man, remember Spire was just absolute dog shit at Daytona though.
Yeah. Well, they had those fuel pump issues, didn't they? If I remember right.
Hocevar had a fuel pump issue. McDowell had some other issue. I don't know if it was, I think it was like a drivetrain issue or something at the very end. For a while, though, that was fine. And I think Haley had that wreck in the duel and just never had a good race. But I don't expect that to continue. That was just kind of a random thought on how bad they were at Daytona.
Yeah. But stuff like that also drives public sentiment. Like, a lot of casual DFS players, especially, will just look at track history and kind of make decisions on that, which is great at normal weeks. But at Talladega, that's just not the case. And that's why, like, I could honestly, with these weeks, I could probably write up 15 different tournament plays, because
absolutely.
There's so many ways to go. It's
I actually hate doing write-ups for Daytona and Talladega because it's so pointless.
It is.
It's pointless. Like, there's no point in me writing a DFS article for these because it's always the same thing. Just play the guys further back and try to get a little heavier on the ones you think will be lower owned and a little lower on the ones you think will be higher owned. It's literally the same article every time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And but I mean, people have to be reminded and still, like, using
get AI to write it for me. Maybe that's what I'll do this week. Browse all my old Talladega articles and write it for me.
Yeah. But it opens up the opportunity because people still, like, obviously our reach only goes so far. So people still aren't going to be on guys like Anthony Alfredo and even like a Riley Herbst, who finished 17th at Daytona this year, because there's really no history on Herbst. So this is a great week to be on those.
And Toyota doesn't tend to qualify very well at these races. Yeah. So you're probably going to get a guy like a Riley Herbst relatively toward the back.
Mm-hmm. But, Bubba Wallace had great cars in both Daytona and Atlanta running up front for most of the race. So obviously he wrecked out of Daytona, but he did lead 18 laps, ended up finishing 9th at Atlanta. So 2311 has good cars, Reddick. Bubba Wallace is obviously Bubba Wallace. He's a big name, good super speedway racer, but that's a great opportunity to be on a guy like Reddick and definitely on a guy like Herbst because it's the same car.
You know who finished, or I shouldn't say finished. You know who had a shot to win the Daytona 500 and did not finish well?
Who?
Cole Custer.
I don't remember that.
Remember, he was shoving Christopher Bell and wrecked him on like the last caution and at the lead. And he was racing for the win with those guys and was in the crash right at the front that William Byron evaded and ended up finishing 21st. People are just going to look and see Cole Custer finish 21st and be so low on him. I'm going to play a lot of Cole Custer this week, I assume, unless he qualifies well because he's in a Ford.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what sucks too is Fords tend to be the strongest in the race as well. And when they qualify up front, it really makes it
so annoying. Yeah.
Yeah. Try to see who else would kind of fit that mold, similar to like obviously Todd Gilliland is going to be has always been an underdog at super speedways, but he qualifies so well here at these now that he's unplayable in DFS unless he fucks up his qualifying.
SVG, honestly.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to be too heavy on SVG this week, but he finished 15th in his only Talladega, or I should say in his most recent Talladega start. He has 2 Cup starts at Talladega. He finished 15th. If he starts in the 30s and finishes 12th instead of 15th, he could be in that optimal,
Yeah, it does not take a lot to for a driver starting in the 30s to get to the optimal because there's no like fastest laps are so spread out that you can't rely on those. So it's all finishing position here, as you guys know if you play DFS.
And he has between Xfinity and Cup, he has 11 drafting track starts now and 1 in ARCA, so 12 drafting track starts. So it's not like he's new to this anymore.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to be ending up being on John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones quite a bit too. Like Nemechek had 2 really bad races here last year, but he led 20 laps in the first race, finished 33rd and 31st. Excuse me. 2 races before that, his 2 other starts here though were top 10 finishes, as you mentioned before, 11th or better and 6th of the last 9, which obviously like. It's not a guarantee, but he's shown his ability to avoid wrecks and kind of be there at the end, which is what you need here. And Eric Jones has always been really good at Talladega. You remember when he was with Joe Gibbs Racing?
Oh, yeah.
I think he had a streak of I don't even remember what it was, but he has one of the best 8 top 10s and 16 starts here at Talladega.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and that was why for stage 1 on Running Hot, Stevie gave out Eric Jones top 10 and I gave out John Hunter Nemechek top 10, right? Very high on both those drivers this week.
Yeah, 7 of the last 10 races at Talladega were top 10s for Eric Jones. And then, and even in the next gen era, 4 of the 6. So
he was going for that win that Ross Chastain got, remember? Chastain passed Eric Jones for the win, basically. I think Eric Jones ended up hitting the wall and finishing somewhere lower in the top 10, but was leading that race coming to the white flag. Yeah, he finished 6th.
I
had a bet on Eric Jones too, so I was covered with Ross and Eric.
That's also the frustrating thing about betting on super speedways is because you can have the guy that's leading at the white flag and he can finish 20th.
Oh yeah,
like
Cole
but
Custer.
It also, yeah. Also, this is a great week to look and watch live betting because you remember back at Atlanta, Chastain and Bell were both solidly running well and like definitely going to compete for the win. Hard Rock was leaving him out there at 25-1 with 10 laps to go.
Ty Dillon in the duels with 4 laps to go was leading, and he was 75-1 at FanDuel.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities to find value live betting here at Daytona and Talladega. And I think even last year when Harrison Burton won the Daytona race, he was 1,000-1 live at one point, which is just absurd.
Bonkers.
Like,
bonkers.
Yeah.
Save a lot of your bankroll for live betting for sure.
Yep. Yes. And that's exactly what I plan to do.
I still like my bets, but I doubt I'm making any more until live.
Yeah, I've been waiting all week and getting back into the rhythm of checking all these books, and literally I'm going through all of them. I'm like, I don't see anything I like. I did when qualifying lines dropped. I wish I could have got the Gillen 14-1. I would have hit that, but I'm still not even like mad that or upset that I didn't get in on that. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't like that. That would be the one thing if I would have saw it in time that I would have hit that.
Yep. Right there with you. Yeah, I don't see a whole lot that I want to bet this week other than what I did bet.
You know what's interesting? There's a new prop.
Maybe Corey LaJoy type bets. He's 250-1 to win. I don't necessarily think I bet him to win, but maybe a top 10 on him at like 4 plus 430. But if I'm going to bet him to win, you probably can get him 500 live or something,
Who?
Corey LaJoy.
He's not in this race.
That's right. Why is he listed on some books? Yeah, I thought he was in this race. He's not. Why is he listed on some books? That's so weird.
Probably because he was in Daytona. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, I'm
that's
glad
funny.
I haven't bet on him. Well, I guess I would just get a refund.
I'm sitting here. I'm like, wait a second. I don't think he's in this race.
Yeah, he's showing up on my odds boards and stuff. Weird.
What other little tidbits you have DFS wise?
I think
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask about the 39 cars instead of 36, but I think we covered that already.
Yeah, like 2 of them are shit boxes. We know Alfredo's going to be fine. It's just Ford, right? Like Ford's going to qualify so well. And they're going to run so well, and this race is so less chaotic that you do need to start sprinkling some of these Fords into your lineups that are qualifying inside the top 12. Maybe not, in the top 5, like you were saying, but that 6 to 12 range, you got to start sprinkling some of these Fords. I wouldn't say go crazy, but like, let's say Josh Berry qualifies 7th. I don't mind 3 to 5% Josh Berry in your lineup. If you're doing 150, things like that.
Like Byron, who won Daytona this year, he started 5th, and Briscoe started on the pole, which you couldn't pay me to start a pole sitter.
No.
He finished 4th. Cindric, he led 59 laps. He finished 8th. So obviously he's gonna be up there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You want to find if you're getting a guy that's running 6th to 12th, or starting 6th to 12th, I should say, you either need them to lead a lot of laps, or you need this to be a super chalky race where like the front runners finish as the front, so it's not a high probability thing. But yeah, like if you get a Ryan Blaney starting 7th or something, you absolutely have to play him in some of your lineups because he could lead up 100 laps or something, especially with the way the running around in the first 2 stages shit goes.
That is an interesting note, though. The difference between Daytona and Talladega is there's only 188. There's even less laps here at Talladega than there is at Daytona. There's only 188 laps. So that just decreases Like, I'm still going to be, no matter what, like, even if Austin Cindric wins the pole or Logano wins a pole, and I think he's going to go out there and lead 80 laps, I'm not taking him. I'm still not taking him. I will take that chance every single time.
Exactly.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But yeah.
Yeah, it's more like that 6 to 12 range. You know what I'm saying? Where get some Fords in that range that you think could lead some laps and finish up front. You can sprinkle them in for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking at qualifying from Atlanta, the top 11: Ford, Kyle Busch in a Chevrolet qualified 6th. Ford.
Yep. Yeah, I've noticed the RCR and Colleague cars have qualified really well. When you look at Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, AJ Allmendinger, even Ty Dillon, they've qualified really well so far this year at the drafting tracks. Mm-hmm. Now, Daytona, you can't look at the starting lineup. You got to look at the actual qualifying, single lap qualifying there because of the duels. But they had good speed in both of those, the RCR cars and the Colleague cars.
Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I don't see any. If we could bet Ford to win the pole, which it might be out there, I think that
that would be.
I don't see anybody. Yeah.
Although Chase Briscoe did win the pole at Daytona.
Out of nowhere, and then they found his car to be illegal. So
yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's get to our picks to win here and the DraftKings picks. It is my turn to go first, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Shit. Give me Bubba Wallace for my pick to win.
Nice. I like it. I'm recording my random.org, so nobody thinks I'm cheating. And I'm doing random.org. The only ones I will throw out are JJ Yaley and BJ McLeod if I happen to get their numbers. So recording now. Generate 42. Is there a 42? John Hunter Nemechek. That's my pick to win.
John Hunter Nemechek. That's funny.
That is funny. I actually recorded it. Y'all could see it. I'll tweet it out. But John Hunter Nemechek, my pick to win.
Nice. We got 2 Toyotas as our picks to win. Now it gets interesting because 36 for 36. Lot of opportunities to go different places here. Looking at who I have left. I'm going to do I'm going to go Stenhouse.
Wow.
Probably going to regret it, but I'm having such a bad season so far on this.
I'm going so if you looked at my random.org when I tweet the video out, I actually did a test one before the stream just to do it, and it was on the 71, so I'm gonna go Michael McDowell.
That's not a bad one. I like that. Because you're like obviously his best tracks are road courses right now, and you're not going to use him in this game at a road course. So
given that we have SVG and we have Dinger now as full-time drivers, and just a couple other guys, right? You're going to probably use road courses with guys like Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, for example. So I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, you're on McDowell. I'm on Stenhouse. We got a couple of Chevys as our 36 or 36 to go along with our Toyota picks to
win. Even though we've been talking up Ford this whole time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And obviously I think we're both going to stay away from Ford when it comes to DFS because in our way too early DraftKings lineups. You said that you already had yours in. I'm assuming I can only guess that you maybe went to the bottom of this driver list and click the bottom 6 drivers. Am I right?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm right.
All right.
I'm not right.
I actually have to go pull it up because it's on my my PC instead of on my laptop. So give me just like a couple seconds because you have to do yours anyway, right? So you can start talking about yours.
Yep. All right. Let me get this, share my screen here. And this one is even crazier when it comes to early week. Obviously, we have no idea where anybody's going to qualify and what the starting positions are going to be for. All
right, I got it.
Got it. All right. Let's see here. I'm going BJ McLeod just because he's going to start in the back. And he's not in a full shit box, if he avoids the Brex. Actually, I'm going to go Cody Ware. Give me Cody Ware. Give me Anthony Alfred. Obviously, I'm going fast pasta. Like, no way I'm not. You talked about him before. I'm going to go SVG. Also, because you talked about him before. Do I want to go Custer since he's in a Ford? Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Actually, give me Eric Jones. Give me, fuck it. I'm going Stenhouse too. And give me. I should just flip a coin on this. I'm going to go Herbst because I talked about him earlier.
I like it. Yep. Those are a lot of similar ones. Not exactly the same as mine, but I like that. Good choices.
All right. And obviously, if you play DFS this week, leaving cap space on the table is encouraged. All right. Who you got?
All right. I will start with fast pasta.
There we go.
Of course. Then I will go John Hunter Nemechek. The Toyotas, especially the legacy Toyotas, did not qualify well at Daytona, which I'm putting more weight on than Atlanta for qualifying. Because Daytona is a little more similar than Talladega. So legacy struggled for sure at Daytona. So I think they could struggle to qualify. So also give me Eric Jones.
I was thinking that.
You know who's been really bad at qualifying in both Atlanta and Daytona? Ross Chastain. Give me Ross Chastain.
Yep. And just overall this year.
Yeah.
Where's Chastain at on here?
He doesn't exist. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
And then you got Eric Jones.
Yep.
Yeah. So 2 spots left. Another bad qualifier and someone that was in your lineup, Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
There we go.
So my last spot comes down to Cole Custer, Riley Herbst, or SVG. So I'm going to random.org those 3. And I said Cole Custer, Riley Herbst, SVG. So that's 1, 2, 3. So I'm random.orging 1, 2, and 3. So this was my plan all along. So record Custer, Herbst, SVG. It is Herbst.
Herbst.
Got a 2.
You know what's interesting? We essentially have the exact same lineup, but I went Cody Ware and you went Ross Chastain.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just going off of people that we expect to qualify bad and marginal upside without knowing anything.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I made that lineup 2 days ago, and I told you about. I was like, I have my lineup ready. It was just a 3-way toss-up on the last spot.
Yeah. Looking at the standings, quote unquote standings for our way too early DraftKings lineups. Like I said, we both had a good week at Bristol. We both had quite possibly the worst week possible at was it Darlington the week before? You scored negative 0.15 and I scored 45.95. Just abysmal performance there. Head to head, I am up 5 wins. You have 3 wins, but total points this year, I'm at 1761.45. You're at 1717.3. So very, very close. Very close. And it's probably going to remain relatively close this week.
At negative 0.15. That shows how hard it is to do these way too early ones.
Right. Oh, by the way, I was wrong. You went Nemechek instead of SVG.
Yeah. So we're two different.
You got Chastain and Nemechek. I got SVG and Cody Ware.
Yeah. It's a 2v2 swap.
There we go. All right. You got anything else before we get off of here? Not much to talk about with Talladega.
Who'd we have 36 for 36 last week? Or
Ty Gibbs.
We both had him, right?
We both had Ty Gibbs. Yep.
Yeah. That's a good one.
40, got 40 points out of him. Yeah, I think it was 40. Yeah, 40 points out of him.
What's the 36 for 36 standings between us?
I honestly am not tracking that. I need to go back. I need to go back and get a couple. I have a lot of them, but not all of them.
I hear you. I think that's it. I don't got anything else.
Yep. Me neither. Good luck everybody this weekend at Talladega, and we'll be back. What is the next race? No more breaks until the end of the year. So we got our off weeks off, or our off week.
Other than the All-Star race, I guess, if you want to count that as a off
right.
Week.
Yeah. Texas after Talladega. That is my birthday weekend. So that'll be fun.
Nice. Oh, by the way, IndyCar just had their 2-day test session at Indy for the 500.
Kyle
Larson hit the wall. Ended his day 2 early after hitting the wall. Honda, 9 of the top 12 times. The only other Chevys in the only Chevys in the top 12 were Penske, and Penske. So it might be a Honda and Penske race this year. We'll see. So those are your like pre-early betting tips for the Indy 500, Honda and Penske.
Yeah, that was a pretty decent hit for Larson. I just watched a replay.
Yeah, Takuma Sato's was worse. Look at Takuma Sato's in-car. You could probably just search it on Twitter. Twitter. I said Twitter because of Sato. But Sato had a hell of a hit. I think it was 94 Gs.
Jesus.
Here, I'll copy this and drop it in our chat. But that was a monster hit.
Yeah, 94G impact. Just minor bruises.
Yeah. So Larson kind of just had a pancake. Sato fully backed it in with the rear of the car. And he was fastest on the day at that point. So, and fastest in no toe speed. So, if they rebuild that car really well, Takuma Sato could be a factor in the race. He's a 2-time Indy 500 winner.
Oh, wow.
I would love it if he won. I mean, obviously I want Kyle Kirkwood to win, but if Takuma Sato won or Elio Castroneves won, I would be going absolutely fucking crazy. And they're both in Hondas, so we'll see.
Absolutely. All right. We're hopping off here. We'll be back next week to recap Talladega and to talk about Texas. So good luck to everybody this weekend. Hopefully you can find some bets that you like and they hit.
See y'all.
See you guys.